Now, New Year is a time for resolutions, and as the world welcomed in 2019 with fireworks and celebration, London welcomed its city to all. Now, I should warn you, there are some fireworks coming up. In other words, flash photography, I suppose. Brexit on the horizon, just a stone's throw away from Westminster, where the UK's post-Brexit future will be decided. The London Eye lit up in blue and yellow as a tribute to the EU flag. And Brussels and London's mayor crafted a clear message that London in 2019 would be open for tourists and locals alike, and Brexit wouldn't change that.
As we bring in 2019, it's an opportunity for us to celebrate the contribution made to our city by Europeans. Here in London, we have more than 1 million Londoners, and they're Londoners, by the way, who are EU citizens, and we should reflect on that, but also celebrate the massive contribution they make towards our city. So tonight, during the course of the fireworks, we'll have European artists mainly who will be providing the soundtrack to the fireworks. On 7 occasions in 7 different languages, we'll be saying 3 really important words: London is open. Because I want to reassure Londoners, those around our country and those around Europe and the world, that even if we do leave the European Union, we're going to carry on being open-minded, outward-looking and pluralistic.
But Sadiq Khan has since been slammed for defending the capital's political fireworks. To discuss, let's bring in Faiza Shaheen from the Centre for Labour and Social Studies and Guido Fawkes news editor Hugh Bennett. Hello to you both. Just want to share with our viewers as I'm chatting to you. Guy Verhofstadt says, a powerful message, London will always be a European city. So it does look, team, as though it is acknowledged that it was a political message. Faiza, your thoughts on that?
Look, at a time of uncertainty in what will happen next, and really quite clearly that Europeans and others have been made to feel unwelcome in this country, I think we needed this kind of message. And honestly, this is a global city. It's a multicultural city. And that London is open, spoken in 7 different languages, is bothering some people, is a sad state of affairs. Like, I wouldn't have expected to be talking about this in 2019.
But was it a political message, Faiza?
Look, in a way, you can read all messages as political, but the mayor of one of the most global cities, not just global for the last few decades, for centuries because of our financial trading, coming out and saying London is open, and particularly focusing on a group of people that have been made to feel unwelcome or may feel unwelcome themselves, that is a positive way in which to start the year.
OK. So, Hugh, it was much more than a message about Brexit. It was a message about us being global and open as a city.
Well, I think there was only really one thing on display on Tuesday night, and that was one man's ego, Sadiq Khan. I think he basically, there was this big celebration. He just wanted to make it all about himself. I think you can clearly, the way he's sort of teed it up in the media, done endless interviews to talk about it. I think it's look, the message is a good message, but I think the way he's gone about it is clearly it's just an exercise in pure self-promotion. Basically, I think you actually got to think about this more politically. He's looking at the Labour Party. He's trying to position himself as an alternative to Jeremy Corbyn, of course, whose views are very ambivalent on the EU. So I think, unfortunately, what should be, just starting the new year, what shouldn't be made into a political statement, I think, has actually become not so much a political statement, but just a sort of self-promotion exercise for one vain politician.
So you're just being critical of the mayor as opposed to the message?
No, I think the message is that London is, everyone knows London is open. Everyone knows London is a European city. London's been taking people from all over the world for hundreds of years. That hasn't been changed, didn't change when we went into the EU, certainly isn't changing when we're coming out of the EU. So I think having that message now I think it's a bit unnecessary. I think Sadiq Khan knows that. I think what he's trying to do, he's trying to push people's buttons. He's trying to get a response, trying to wind people up. I think trying to get people talking about him, Sadiq Khan, and he's actually, he's achieved that. We're talking about him now. London is open. London always has been, and Brexit is never going to change that.
More of a vanity project, Pfizer, is what Hugh is saying. But, he is the mayor of London. He is the mayor of one of the most cosmopolitan cities in the world. And he was helping celebrate 2019 would be the counter-argument, I suppose.
Yeah, look, in a way, it's a shame that he has to say these things. We've been left in Brexit limbo over Christmas. by this government. We haven't had the assurances we should have had from Theresa May. And to be honest, I'm quite confused by those upset about Sadiq Khan's message. On the one hand, you hear from the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg, chief Brexiteers, saying, no, Theresa May should have been much stronger in protecting the rights of EU citizens here. She should have been clearer about that, and we should be clearer about that. And here we have the Mayor of London, a leading politician in this country, saying those exact things, and we are hearing people complaining. And honestly, it's frustrating. It's frustrating to have this conversation. It's absolutely right that we should be making people feel welcome at this country at this point. And in the context of fear-mongering, for instance, around refugees, that's been happening over Christmas, it's even more important that we have our political leaders unashamedly and strongly saying that they support immigration.
Hugh, it was interesting when we played that clip from the Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, just a short time ago, and he was saying, if we leave the European Union. So I know the discussions start again on the 7th of January, next Monday, when the House of Commons returns after the festive recess. But he's not closing the door to staying within the European Union. Do you think that's more hope than judgment?
Well, I think, again, you've got to look at it in terms of, he's positioning himself. He's trying to play to the Labour membership, which is more in favour of a second referendum. He's trying to play to the London electorate. He's got the London mayoral elections where he'll be up for re-election coming up.
Isn't that his job, though, Hugh? Isn't that what he does? He's a politician. He's supposed to do that, isn't he?
Yeah, but I think he shouldn't be taking an expensive event funded by taxpayers' money and turning it into a sort of grandstanding event for himself. That's the thing. He's turned this spectacle, which should be about all the people of London, into something that's very much about himself. And I think he could have made that message without sort of rubbing it in people's faces so much that it's all about him. And I think when you actually look at the uncertainty for EU citizens, there's no uncertainty for EU citizens in the UK. The UK's made it clear that whatever happens, even if there's no deal, the rights of EU citizens in the UK are guaranteed. And it's the EU that hasn't offered those same assurances to UK citizens who are living in the EU. So quite why he's sort of celebrating the EU flag as something when it's actually the EU which is leaving millions of people in uncertainty, I don't think he's judged the mood of that right.
Fraser, your response to that?
That London voted overwhelmingly to remain, and it's important to remember that. So actually, he is representing the majority when he talks about Brexit in this city. And at the same time, we need to hear these positive messages, because as much as Hugh may want to believe that EU citizens are safe, a lot of them themselves don't feel safe. They don't know what's happening. The prospect of a no deal, for instance, that has grown, is meaning that anything could happen. And actually, at this point, to open the year, and I'll say this again, to open the year with a message of love, of openness, that is, to me as a Londoner, that is London. And Sadiq Khan isn't just talking about himself. He is spreading a message that a lot of us feel.
Hugh, final thought from you, sir. We're almost out of time. Away you go.
Yeah, well, I think, look, it is good to have a positive message, but I think one of the main messages of Brexit is that actually London is open to the whole world. It's not just the EU. And I think Sadiq's, again, chosen to just focus on the EU, focus on this small part of the world, whereas actually I think a lot of people who voted for Brexit, a lot of people who believe in Brexit, believe Brexit is a thing that will open London up to the whole world, to make us much more welcoming. It's never been about pulling up the drawbridge. It's actually about expanding our horizons, not just having this sort of little Eurocentric view of things where only people who are born in wealthy countries in Europe are able to come to the UK, and actually a system that's much fairer to people from all around the world, regardless of where they're born, whether they're born in a poor country or a rich country, whether they're born in Europe or further away. And so I think the message should really be one that London is open to the whole world, not just the EU. OK, Hugh, Fraser, it's good to talk to both of you. Thank you very much indeed. Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us on the Kay Burley Show this afternoon. Could have been worse. Did you see the fireworks in Australia?